So for people to have a completely different perspective of me, I take it very seriously, and it really hurts, you know?
So how are you feeling about this season?
I mean, it's been an adventure.
Yeah.
It's definitely a learning experience, that's for sure. It was very interesting for me because, you know, I kind of come in halfway through the season, because when I was asked to do the show, the ladies had already been filming for a month and a half.
Okay, because I think a lot of people were like, where is she? How come we're like 6 episodes in and we don't have our new housewife?
Yeah, exactly. So they'd already been filming for a month and a half. Then they asked me to do it.
Okay.
And then I, you know, just like jumped right into filming 2 weeks later. And then a couple episodes later, I'm gone for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And so I was actually on spring break in Hawaii with my family because I had already had that plan before they asked me to film. So, yeah.
So what was it like then, jumping into this group of women who have been established as, you know, this cast for quite some time?
Yes.
So what was it like kind of jumping in there mid-season, not really knowing too many people?
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because, you know, not only are you like being in reality TV for the first time, right?
Sure.
And before this, like I was a very private person. Like my Instagram was like private and everything. And so that was like a whole new world. And then also learning a new group of women. And so you've got the dynamics of the group and all the things that, you know, happened previous years. And, you know, they had a lot going on just at the very beginning of this season. So it was like trying to catch up to kind of understand what was happening with that. And then also the individual dynamics of each person, right? And kind of learning their personalities and different character traits and how they communicate versus how I communicate, and just, you know, trying to find a way that works for both of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you binge like at the seasons prior?
As soon as I started, so I watched it like before I had kids, like maybe 8 years ago. I had watched a couple episodes, and then once production called me and they were like, "Hey, you're going to be on this show," I watched last season because I was like, well, I need to know who these people are. Like, who are these people? What am I doing?
You got to do your homework.
I do homework exactly. What am I getting myself into? So I did. I like binge watched the season in like a week, and you know, but it's still very different.
I'm sure.
Very different in person.
It's a whole different world, I would imagine. So, I mean, going into this season, Sutton's esophagus was not my bingo card. I'm sure you.
Oh my God,
I'm sure you never want to hear that word ever again.
I never want to hear the word ever again. Oh my gosh.
Watching it back.
Yeah.
What has this been like for you?
Watching it back, I was like, Annemarie, what in the world what are you doing?
Yeah.
It was awful. All of it was awful. I was very disappointed in myself and how I, you know, handled that situation. I hated watching every minute of it. And, you know, I think the appropriate thing would have been to just have a conversation with Sutton, like on the side, and say like, hey, you know, I just want to understand like what's happening here. Have an open-ended conversation, and like if you want to talk about it, great. If you don't want to talk about it, great. And like it should have never happened. Like it should have never happened. It should have never been a thing. Yeah. So literally, I watch it and I cringe and I hate every second of it. And like I said, I never want to hear the word ever again.
Ever again.
Ever again.
Yeah. You know, I hate to cause issues, but when Sutton was here, she said your apology was dismal. That's how she.
Which
maybe the one that was on FaceTime.
Oh, okay.
Do you agree with that?
So there were also things that kind of happened during that phone call that I think we didn't see. So I apologized to her. It was very heartfelt. I really meant it. I felt terrible about it. You know, and I felt bad about putting her in a position where she felt bad and she felt awkward or embarrassed. So it was genuine. It really was. Yeah. And then you know, I had started to open up to her about personal things that were going on in my life, particularly with my mom at that time. And it wasn't received well from her because I think she thought I was just saying it like as an excuse or something. And so she kind of, reversed it on me, like used it against me. And so that's kind of where at that point I kind of shut down a little bit. And so I think that's where for the viewers and for Sutton, where she could have been like, no, the apology wasn't sincere, because there were other things at play as well.
Got it. You mentioned before that your account, your Instagram, was private before all this.
Yeah.
You know, becoming a housewife, you have to deal with social media.
Yeah.
And I know that you've spoken out about this
Yeah.
as well, and how the backlash has been pretty severe for you. How have you been able to kind of wrap your head around that, and what's that been like for you and for your family too?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really hard. Like, I'll be very honest.
Yeah.
It's been very hard. And I think just because, like, I know who I am as a person, and I'm somebody who prides myself on being a kind and caring and fun and giving person. And so for people to have a completely different perspective of me, like, I take it very seriously, and it like really hurts,
yeah,
you know? And it's just been a lot. Like, I get a lot of negative comments on a lot of different things. And so, yeah, it's been hard. And the best advice that I get from my family and my friends is just, don't read comments.
Yeah.
Just, you know who you are. I have a wonderful life. I have a wonderful family, very supportive family that I'm very thankful for. And I just try to focus on that and focus on what's important. And, hopefully going forward, people will, get to see me, like the real me, and see what I'm like as a person. And, yeah.
Do you
hopefully.
feel like things will shift for you?
Things are going to shift.
Okay, things are going to shift.
Thank God. Oh my God, thank God. Yes, things are going to shift. People are going to get to see a totally different side of me, which I'm so excited about.
Can we just fast forward, please?
Yes, this is just like, ignore everything that happened before.
Right.
You're never going to hear the E word again.
Okay, good.
Things with me and Crystal, we're going to get to a better place, and things are just going to get, they're going to get they're going to get a little bit lighter. You're going to get to see a lighter side of me, which I'm really happy about.
Going through what you've been through so far this season, do you regret doing this at all? Or if you knew that this was going to happen, would you have signed up for it?
No, I don't regret it. I wouldn't say I regret it at all. It is just a learning experience. And I think I'm the kind of person that I like to take experiences, even if they're not exactly what you thought they were going to be, and learn from it, right? Like I was an athlete growing up. I played basketball in college, and like, that's what you do, right? You have a bad game or you have a bad play. You're just like, hey, it's a learning experience. You analyze it, see what you did wrong, and how are you going to fix it, and how are you going to do better the next time, right?
Yeah.
Ball out on the next play or whatever, right?
Right.
So I think that's what it is. It's just a learning experience. And like, there's no manual for this, right? Yeah. Being a housewife is unlike any other experience ever, and there's only a select small group of women that have ever done it, and they can attest to that. Like, there's no manual coming into this. There's no handbook. There's no rules per se, and so you kind of just learn as you're going along, and you course correct, you own up to your mistakes, you say your apologies, and you move forward.
Sure. Are you disappointed that none of the women have really spoken out in your defense these past few weeks? Yeah. I would like. I would have, I would like a bit more support around that. But like I've reached out to Kyle, I've reached out to Erica, like I do feel supported from some of the women, but I think there are some things that I'm dealing with that others have also had to deal with, and so it's always easier when you're having to go through something publicly when you have others like kind of rally around you. Sure. So I think in that regard, it would definitely make it easier. But quietly, I do have some of the support from some of the ladies. You mentioned Crystal before, and the two of you seem to be like oil and water.
Oh yeah,
really not gelling. Yeah. What do you think it's about? What do you think about you really kind of sets her off?
It's so funny because Crystal and I have mutual friends in real life. Like we really do. And so when I was going to start on the show, like I got her number from a friend and I called her and we had this like amazing 2-hour long phone conversation, and she was so sweet and so helpful. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome. We're going to come in here. We're going to be friends. We're going to be like the fun, silly ones. Yes. Like, I really thought we were going to have a really great time. And then there was just she was very inconsistent with how she acted off camera versus on camera to me. And then, how she made her storyline about me, and that, that's really where you see us not gelling at all, because I was like, you can't just make up a storyline about me, right? Yeah. I think I'm a little bit of a reminder to her of like what she didn't get to do, unfortunately, right? Like I'm
I'm in healthcare, and Crystal had told the ladies that, you know, she wanted to be in healthcare. She ultimately wanted a career in healthcare, and she, I guess her husband wasn't supportive of that or something, and she chose to get married instead. She chose a different path. And so I think that maybe that's a trigger for her. She sees me doing that, and, you know, it might evoke some emotions in her, right? Naturally, I understand that, right? She takes it very seriously, and I think the fact that she's not the newbie anymore, she really was like, okay, great, this is my chance to not be the new one, not be the target, not be the focus in that regard. And I think she really knew that she had to really step up this year. And I think she kind of took advantage of the fact that, like, hey, I'm not the newbie anymore. And, like, she trusts me. And, you know, I'm going to kind of play the system a little bit. So, you know.
So you definitely feel like you were used for storyline this season by her.
I mean, the false accusation of misrepresenting my title is, yes, that is false. It is false. That is made up. And that is very, you know, it's very unfortunate that she did that. And, you know, I don't know if I will get an apology from her. That, you know, that will remain to be seen.
You said that you were in a better place. I know that we just came off the reunion. I know you can't tell me too much about what happened, but what was your first reunion experience like?
It was actually very positive.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I was very, you know, very nervous going into it. Like, don't know what to expect, don't know what it's going to be like. But all the ladies were super supportive. Everybody there was super supportive.
Okay.
You know, I said all the points that I wanted to say, said all my truths. And so, yeah, it was definitely a good experience.
So you felt like you had closure?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
You know, Sutton said that when Mauricio didn't show up to Lorraine's event, that it was a big red flag for her. Was it a big red flag for you too?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Are you hopeful for the two of them still?
I always root for love, right? And I root for what is going to make people happy, right? They've been married for, was it 27 years, 28 years. They have 4 beautiful daughters. You know, but that is also just not everybody's happy ending, right? Like, maybe her happy ending is something else. So I think whatever makes her happy and whatever makes her feel whole and whatever makes her feel good, that's what I'm rooting for.
Totally.
Yeah.
How did your husband feel about the 8.5 comment?
Oh my God. This is my favorite question because it was totally a joke. Like, to us, it's so funny. Like, we joke like that. Like, that's our relationship. That's my best friend. That's my person, right? So when people were like, oh my God, you let your husband call you an 8.5? Like, I can't believe she does that. So I have to clarify this. He said that I got it wrong. He's like, that's not what it is. He said, I'm not 8.5 across the board. He said 8.5 average. And this is what it means. So, like, he's like, yeah, looks and body and brains, yes, you're a 10. Obviously. He's like, I wouldn't have married you if you weren't a 10, right? But he's like, but I'm stressed out a lot.
Okay.
I stress. And he hates when I stress. And I'm like, I have a lot of, like, OCD tendencies. And he hates those things. And so he's like, those are your 2s. He's like, all the other stuff, like, yes, you're a 10. Of course you're a 10. But he's like, those are your 2s. And so he's like, that's what, like, brings you to an 8.5. Okay. But I thought it was hilarious. I think that was a total joke for me.
Right. Well, then how would you rate him? What's he?
Oh, he's like 8.5 too. Like, he's not a 10. Like, you also have to remember, like, we're athletes, right?
Sure,
like, I never expect to be a 10.
Of course,
right? Like,
yeah.
I'm never going to have a coach that's like, oh, you had a perfect game. There's always something to work on. So,
you know, you mentioned your title and everything like that. Yes. I know that has also gotten a lot of questions. Yeah. How has that personally affected you?
Yeah, so that, and it's so there's so many layers to it. So I am a CRNA, certified registered nurse anesthetist, certified registered nurse and anesthesiologist. The American Society of Anesthesiologists, and my professional association, which is the American Association of Nurse Anesthesiology, there are a lot of political issues between the two groups. The ASA doesn't love, they don't love that I'm on the show. They don't love that CRNAs are getting so much awareness, that people know what we are now, people know what we do, that I'm advocating for them. And historically, they have unfortunately kind of taken every opportunity they can to downplay CRNAs, hence their, the online attack that they did against me and like the defamation campaign. And so people, look at it and they think, oh, well, she calls herself an anesthesiologist and she's this and they're not doctors and blah, 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 blah. But there's so much behind it. So nurse anesthesiologist versus a physician anesthesiologist. Nurse anesthesiologist, all of our schools now are doctorate programs. So nurse anesthesiologists, as of 2025, every single one is actually a doctor. So that's not an inappropriate title. And again, it just goes back to, it's almost like a market turf war, if that kind of makes sense. So, and I really wish that like going forward, it could just be, you know, a cohesive union, because this division is just, it doesn't help anyone, right? Like we need to be united for our patients and do what's best for our patients. But yeah, they unfortunately, they don't love the attention that CRNers are getting because I'm now on a reality show.
Were you shocked that that statement came out?
From the, very, when I saw it, I thought it was fake. Like I thought that was a fake account. And then I was very shocked that like an actual professional association would put that out. But you know, I have the full support of my professional association. Everybody 100% backs me, and they've been really great with it. And it's just, again, this is something that CRNAs have dealt with for so many years. So it's shocking for everybody else that's seeing it, but it's not shocking for us because this is what we deal with. And just to make everything very, very clear, nurse anesthesiologist is a completely appropriate title. Nurse anesthesiologist, as of 2025, every single one that graduates has a doctorate degree. About 10% of all CRNAs at the moment have doctorate degrees. I have a master's degree. I've been a nurse for 21 years. I've been a CRNA for 11 years. When I graduated, my program was a master's program, so I have a master's in my field. So
thank you for clearing it up.
I mean, there's so many nuances and everything, and I know it's hard for people to understand, but they don't even like us using the title nurse anesthesiologist.
Interesting.
But ologist just stands for expert in.
Got it. Okay.
Physician anesthesiologist, nurse anesthesiologist.